Welcome back, my friends. Andy here. In this video, I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive into specifically into the analytics and forecasting systems that we can design and build into the CRM platform. This is really important to consider early on because if we can have an idea of what types of results we want to look for, we can make sure to build that into the system from the beginning. Because unfortunately, it is something that as complexity increases, just like any other technological system, it's typically more difficult to change it later on than to build it in the beginning. In this case here, there's a couple of pretty specific items that we want to be able to keep track with. When it comes down to the pipeline itself, I'm going to start off talking about what metrics specifically we would want to be going after and what that means and how it affects the organization. And then I'm going to finish off talking about the performance efficiencies and how we would be able to make sure that we're staying on the right track, that we can follow up with trends. And if we notice that there's something that requires some type of an action, we're able to ensure that that's being executed properly. Finally, I'm going to go over a couple of data points that will allow us to be able to ensure that multiple parties from different divisions are able to collaborate together and have a single source of truth when it comes to different dashboards, depending on whatever data point might be the most useful, depending on a person's role. So that sounds interesting for you. Join us on this video or just poke through the text. It's pretty much the same thing. I'll just go into a little bit more information about some data points here. So to start out with, it comes down to what metrics do we want to track? At the end of the day, it's something that if somebody is putting the information into the system, we're going to be able to pull that data and populate it into either a dashboard or a report or anything at all. So there is an infinite number of stuff that we could capture. This is just a couple of things that I think would be a nice place to start as a V1 sandbox, so to speak, just something for us to get the ball rolling. So that way we can determine what additional insights might be useful and we can increase complexity as we go. Number one is going to be how many deals do we actually have going? This will give us an idea for what is our current capacity, what can we handle as a team, and depending on whatever goals or objectives we have as a company, how likely are we to be able to achieve that based on the current deal flow? We want to know about what deals are stalled. So oftentimes other projects might get busy, or perhaps we need to wait for some type of a technological update, or maybe we need to have someone's particular on our team to take care of a task and they're tied up at the moment. By being able to tell what deals are stalled, we can determine as a team how could we work together to ensure that things keep on progressing in the positive direction. We want to have different filters that allow us to take a look at the different types of contacts. So these could be filters that are breaking different contacts down based on the type of audience that we're going after. Are they influencers, investors, developers, builders? Or it can also be based on the contact stage. How many of our contacts that are coming in actually progress into effective deals? How many contacts end up just staying cold? Out of the number of contacts that we have a discovery call with, how many of them go all the way into closure? And various other types of questions like this, we would want to be able to answer through some type of a visualization that allows us to easily navigate our entire CRM database without having to look through just endless rows of sporadic data. We want to have similar filter by role. And then this comes from the marketing space. Everything that we do, especially in an industry like e-com, where I spent most of my time, it is all about traffic and conversions. To break that down specifically, traffic means what is being input into the system. How many visitors are we getting on our site? How many leads are we collecting in our CRM? How many conversations are we having? How many negotiations are actively occurring? And then conversions is a matter of how many of those are being escalated into the result that we're looking for. In ecom, that's how many people are buying. In Web3, that's going to be how many projects are actually becoming active. How many grant applicants become grant participants, like people who are actively pursuing milestone achievements. By tracking the conversion rates, we can see where are there bottlenecks in our systems. So perhaps we might notice at first that there's a very large chasm between the cold contacts, the people we're reaching out to, and the people we have discovery calls with. Well, we can understand and find out perhaps we're spreading ourselves too thin. We don't want to go out there and take a shotgun approach and just start hitting up everybody. It's just not a great use of resources and doesn't lead us to higher conversions. Alternatively, we want to make sure that maybe we're being a bit too slow and we're not reaching out and having enough conversations, and we find that our pipeline is getting dry over different periods of time. So by looking at things from the perspective of traffic and conversions, it makes it to where it's much easier to just look at a dashboard and very quickly see where we've been, where we are now, and to estimate where that might lead us into the future. Finally, we want to be able to take a look at each one of the different stages that we discussed in the previous video for the deal's current status. This will allow us to find out as a team, as an organization, how healthy is our pipeline? Are we winning right now or are we losing? So that way we can make sure we're constantly going in the right direction. This next section, it's specifically about how do we maximize the efficiency. So efficiency really is going to be a matter of the resources that we're spending. Maybe that's time being put by leaders or they're coaching up associates, or the time that associates and labor hours that they're spending to be able to achieve different actions. How much value creation are we receiving as an organization? Are we profitable or unprofitable? Are the systems that we're using, are they sustainable, or is it something that's likely going to lead us to a bottleneck in the future? By being able to constantly assess and reassess through the feedback loops just how valuable are different participations. Because I think we could agree that a cold contact of a random person we met at an event who said that they're interested in Neon Labs without saying any specifics around that is probably less valuable than a grant participant who comes from a project with a community of 100,000 people and they're super stoked to be able to deploy on the Neon Labs EVM. So by being able to quantify what level of value creation are we able to expect, and what level of value creation are we actually receiving? We'll be able to make sure to spend our time, effort, and resources in the places that are the most productive for us. We're also going to want to be able to find out how long does it take us to complete deals. This will be massively useful information for whenever we are looking at expanding the team. So we can determine, do we really need to have more biz dev associates? Or perhaps maybe we need to have more marketers to be able to create a wider net to connect with. Or maybe we need more integration engineers because our partnership system is so smooth that we need to make sure we can support the many projects that are interested in building with us. Finally, when we're looking at value creation, we want to be able to think about some type of a quantifiable scoring metric that at first it's a bit of just a guess. I mean, we'll discuss it as a leadership team, and inside of the comments, we'll figure out, do we think that X is more valuable than Y? How much more valuable is it? And over time, these systems will become pretty optimized. As we do this, we want to make sure that we're leaving a breadcrumb trail that showcases how we come to different decisions. So that way, as we onboard new associates, kind of like how this system, someone can sit down in about an hour, consume most of this information, and be relatively caught up on how this system could work. We'll want to have something that acts as a bit of a living document. So that way, as we make changes over time, the new folks, or maybe the people that aren't directly associated, can understand where that's at. Finally, a couple of different data points that are also super interesting and very easy to set up is timelines overall. So we can understand, how much value creation can we expect in the next week, the next month, the next quarter. This will help a lot with resource allocation. What is the total amount of value output that we have coming from a team or an individual? In this way, we can set up leaderboards that will allow us to be able to create something of a gamified approach. So then we can have a bit more fun in the way that we do this. Maybe we make something special that's like the top leaders are able to be able to go to the next event, or perhaps there's some other kind of special thing. It doesn't even have to be monetary, just something the way we can track the details. And finally, what is our percentage to our goals? So each month, each quarter, each year, we should set an objective of what we're looking for. Maybe that's an amount of community growth. We want to hit certain follower numbers. Maybe that's going to be an amount of value creation, number of partnerships we want to close, number of grant participants we want to have completely achieve all of their milestones. By being able to have a series of dashboards set up to allow us to see each of the moving pieces in our company, it'll make it to where, as a leadership team, we're going to be able to make decisions based on actual data. And so long as we're able to have somebody that's making sure that these systems are being maintained, that we have transparency on exactly what's happening, and all of that's done through the communication and feedback loops, it'll ensure that we mitigate the probability of falling behind. So if you found this interesting, I love your feedback. Feel free to drop it in the comments or any questions that you might have. And in the next video, we're going to talk specifically about feedback loops and communication within the pipeline deal structure. So that way we're able to always stay ahead of the curve and remain flexible. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, do svidaniya.